Not a single Republican voted for the historic $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill passed by the Senate this weekend. In fact, Republicans spent most of the weekend trying to derail it while still whining about Dr. Seuss. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The past few months have offered a deeply revealing look at the state of American democracy and the course it could take over the next few years without major reforms. On the one hand, we saw a political faction, which represents a minority of American voters, try to overturn an election they lost and then sow a violent insurrection to interfere with the lawful counting of electoral votes. And then, about 2 months later, we saw 50 Senate Democrats, who represent about 41 million more Americans than the 50 Senate Republicans, vote to deliver one of the largest rescue bills in history, which has been massively popular in poll after poll. And not a single Republican joined them in the Senate or in the House. They were too busy doing dumb like this.
Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. You do not like them? Say, so you say. Try them, and you may. Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam I am. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you, Sam I am. Enjoy your day.
Well, I can't now. Not after that performance. There's nothing cringier than watching a grown adult in a suit read Dr. Seuss to an empty room with no children around. Is that the Fox News version of Reading Rainbow, reading Rainbows? This is what a hostage video would look like if Barney was the kidnapper. Serious Stockholm Syndrome when you get kidnapped by Barney. You're so mad when you get rescued. You don't understand. I love him. He loves me. Most importantly, Green Eggs and Ham isn't canceled, you goober. It's on Amazon's bestseller list, thanks to all your whining. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out the Seuss people did this just to move more product. No one's buying our books. Say we're pulling them for racism. They will fly off the shelves. No one canceled anything. The copyright holder voluntarily withdrew 6 books from publication because of racist imagery and language. The books include titles like The Cat's Quizzer and McElligot's Pool, which I'm guessing is where Steve Bannon drowned. When it comes to Fox News and the Republican Party, their brand is overreaction. Take their feigned outrage over the Muppet Show. Disney decided to add a disclaimer in front of an episode with a Confederate flag, among others, but it's Fox News, not Fox Nuance, so they act like Kermit the Frog was thrown in an unmarked van, never to be seen or heard from again. You can still see the episode. And just to show you cancel culture isn't real, it stars Johnny Cash, who shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. No second reason. Anyway, the point is, this is what our two major political factions have decided to spend their time on. One's trying to deliver a massively popular relief bill that includes direct payments, expanded child and unemployment benefits, and funding for vaccinations. And another is holding story time for ghost children in a library of the damned, trying to overturn the election and trying to prevent people from voting in the next one. The tidal wave of anti-voting legislation unleashed by Republican state legislatures over the past few weeks has gotten so insane that Georgia Republicans have proposed a series of bills that would, among other things, target black voters, ban no-excused absentee ballots, roll back Sunday voting, and ban what is known as line warming, the practice of having volunteers provide water, snacks, chairs, and other assistance to voters in line. Holy they're trying to ban voters from having water, snacks, and chairs? Republicans want to turn voting into one of those extreme radio station contests where whoever goes the longest without peeing gets 2 backstage passes to an Aerosmith concert. If the GOP had their way, there'd be one polling place in every state open for like 3 hours a week. And instead of a school, it would be at the end of a American Ninja Warrior-style obstacle course. If you don't bring 3 forms of ID, you get knocked off the platform by a giant foam hand. Also, I love how the Party of Freedom wants to make it illegal to give someone a snack. They're canceling snacks. Quick, get Kevin McCarthy on YouTube so we can read the ingredients on a pack of Oreos. Unbleached, enriched flour, canola oil, or palm oil. Enjoy your day. I guess in the GOP's America, voters aren't allowed to drink water unless it's from McElligot's Pool. So that's the central story of our political culture at the moment. One coalition is becoming increasingly deranged and extreme and anti-democracy, and the other is still committed to competent governance. And look, that doesn't mean this bill is perfect. Far from it. For one thing, the bill keeps the expanded unemployment benefits at $300 rather than the original $400 Democrats had aimed for, and it sets them to expire by Labor Day, a deal forced by moderate Democrat Joe Manchin for reasons no one seems to understand on either side of the aisle. When asked what Manchin's issue was, his fellow moderate Democrat John Tester said, "I don't know. I really don't." Republican Shelley Moore Capito said, "I have no idea what he's doing." Cool, because that's what you want in a Senate that's split 50-50, a wild card. Side note, that photo right there was taken just as Manchin found out he was a Democrat. I am? Oh man, in West Virginia? Good luck to me. It's weird to hear senators talking about one of their colleagues the way baseball announcers talk about a streaker. And now he's wrestling the t-shirt gun away from the Philly fanatic. Do you know what he's doing out there, Buck? I really don't. Either we're all getting t-shirts or we're going to see a man get his nuts tasered off. A 50-50 split means all the Democrats have to stick together. You can't have one guy splintering off at the last minute. It's like an escape room where everyone's focused on the clue hidden under the genie's lamp, and one guy's like, I bet I could just kick this door down. Devin, can you just use your brain for once and waste these quads? No, thank you. Then there's the fact that a group of Democratic senators and independent Angus King split off and joined Republicans in voting down a proposal to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is widely popular in polls and something President Biden campaigned on. One member of that group, Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, has gotten a lot of criticism for the enthusiastic thumbs down she gave the bill on the Senate floor, like a judge on America's Got Talent after an 8-year-old bombs doing stand-up. Sorry, Tyler, but the 90s called. They want their joke format back. But let's not lose sight of the senators from safe Democratic seats like Chris Coons and Tom Carper in Delaware who voted it down for no reason other than they don't like it on policy grounds. I mean, what's wrong with you guys? You're not going to face any serious Republican opposition, and yet you're still siding with them? Watching these guys is like watching LeBron play defense against himself. By the way, playing defense against himself is the only way he'll ever get called for a foul. I'm just kidding. I love him, and I want him to be my friend. With all that said, it's important not to understate the truly seismic nature of this bill and all the incredible good it will do for millions of poor and working class Americans. For one thing, it's way bigger than the 2009 stimulus, and that's a good thing because the 2009 stimulus wasn't nearly enough. This bill sends about $350 billion in state and local governments to keep services running, save pensions and schools and public transit, and keep people employed. It sends out direct payments to about 85% of Americans, and it expands unemployment benefits and child benefits. One study suggested that the bill will reduce poverty by a third, lifting nearly 13 million Americans out of it, and that child poverty would be reduced by more than half. Meanwhile, for a family of 4 with one working parent and one who remains unemployed because of childcare constraints, the benefits could total more than $12,000. But what about the tax credit for high earners who use S corporations to buy fine art for their catamarans? Who will think of the catamarans? Anyway, the point is, this is a flawed but really good bill that delivers desperately needed help to the people who need it most on a scale that's necessary to make an actual difference in the economy and in people's lives. And that, of course, means Republicans did everything they could to derail it with bullshit, like Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who offered an amendment to stop the checks from going to undocumented immigrants, even though the bill doesn't do that anyway. And he was immediately rebuffed by Illinois Senator Dick Durbin.
Mr. President, moments ago, the Democrats in this chamber just voted to send $1,400 stimulus checks to murderers, to rapists and child molesters incarcerated in prison. This amendment before us today provides that the stimulus check should not go to illegal aliens in this country. Should your money, should taxpayer money, be sent $1,400 to every illegal alien in America?
Mr. President, the statement of the senator from Texas is just plain false. False. Let me be clear. Undocumented immigrants do not have Social Security numbers, and they do not qualify for stimulus relief checks, period. And for you to stand up there and say the opposite is just to rile people up over something that's not true.
Will the senator yield for a question?
No, I won't. It is not true, and we know what's going on here. They want to be able to give speeches to say the checks go to undocumented people.
Cruz is so bad at this, he can't even be subtle about his bull fear-mongering. Democrats just voted to send stimulus checks to murderers, rapists, child molesters, Chuckies, Jasons, Cinemas, Freddy Kruegers, and Qualos. Second, I love his sociopathic little chuckle at the end there. Millions out of work and poverty, facing food insecurity, and it's all so funny to him. Or maybe he was just remembering when he grabbed the maracas away from a mariachi at the Señor Frogs in Cancun. So Democrats stuck together to fend off GOP stonewalling and passed a historic relief bill that could not come at a more precarious time. We're currently at what may well be a crossroads in the pandemic. There's lots of good news, but also some bad news. Vaccinations are accelerating at a previously unthinkable pace, with nearly 3 million doses administered on Saturday alone. Cases have fallen as dramatically as they ever have since the peak in January, but cases also now seem to be plateauing at a stubbornly high number of 60 to 70,000 per day, which leaves more than enough virus circulating for one more deadly outbreak before summer. And yet several states are racing to prematurely lift mask mandates or open up entirely, from Texas to Mississippi, Alabama, and even Connecticut, where the mask mandate will remain in effect, but capacity limits will be lifted on retail, restaurants, and gyms. Why would you lift capacity on gyms? The whole business model for gyms is that people join them and then don't go. It's just a key fob that costs $100 a month to carry around. There should be capacity limits on gyms, even when there isn't a pandemic. No one wants to change into running shoes right next to one of those weirdly jacked 80-year-olds air drying his nuts. Bad things happen when I put it away wet. Stay out of my space, Grandpa. Now's not the time to take our foot off the gas. If we just hunker down and spend the next month or two crushing this thing, combined with the ramped-up vaccinations, we could have a potentially great summer. Think about it. We could have block parties, neighborhood barbecues, street fairs. Do you remember street fairs in New York? You'd be in a cab in a rush, heading to your apartment, and all of a sudden the road would be closed, and you'd say, street fairs. We can have that back soon. And yet, if you express any caution or hesitation at all about opening up too quickly in the hopes that we'll be able to crush this thing by summer, Fox News, the same people who spread lies about everything from masks to social distancing to lockdowns to the COVID death toll to vaccines to scam miracle cures, have the gall to accuse you of being pro-pandemic.
We might be out of the pandemic by summer medically. We'll see how long it will take us to get out of the pandemic politically. Dr. Siegel, thanks so much for telling us about this news.
Great point, Will. Great. Well, there's plenty of people that want that pandemic to continue, but it is not us. Thanks for having me.
Exactly.
Are you out of your mind? Nobody wants this godforsaken pandemic to go any longer. We've all been trapped inside for a year. Forget going to gyms or movie theaters. I'd give anything to be on a packed F train right now without air conditioning, getting crushed on one side by a guy with a bike and the other side by a guy with a lizard on his shoulders. This is the central story of our politics right now. One political coalition, for all its faults, is focused on actually governing, and the other has become unmoored from reality and fueled entirely by imagined cultural grievances over everything from children's books to the Muppets. And with a few exceptions, Republicans have made the conscious decision to lean into that. They've made the cynical calculation that sticking with a racist authoritarian criminal who sowed an insurrection to overthrow democracy is the path to power. Senator Lindsey Graham told Axios last night he's trying to harness the energy of the Trump movement.
There's something about Trump. There's a dark side and there's some magic there. What I'm trying to do is just harness the magic. To me, Donald Trump is sort of a cross between Jesse Helms, Ronald Reagan, and P.T. Barnum.
And that sounds like a good combination to you? Who else are you going to include? John Gotti and Jabba the Hutt? Also, what do you mean you want to harness the magic? You sound like a regional theater director trying to whip your cast into shape for a production of Our Town. Come on, people, you're supposed to practice these dance numbers on your own time. You need to stop whining and harness the magic, or else my Meemaw is going to keep telling me I wasn't cut out for Broadway. At least I have dreams, Meemaw! A majority of House Republicans voted to overturn the November election results, and not a single one of them voted to fund vaccinations and send urgently needed relief to the American people amid a pandemic and economic crash. That simple fact should tell you everything you need to know about the state of our politics. Whatever their flaws, the Democrats' message to voters is this. Do you like checks? Do you like unemployment benefits? Do you like money for children, schools, vaccines, and pensioners? And the Republicans' message to voters is,
Do you like green eggs and ham?
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. We love you.